let's write two more functions. One is going to be for logging in the user, and the other one is going to be used to register the user. So I'm putting a mark here called this login func, and this is going to be class func, and it's going to be login user with, and we're going to pass our email, which is a string. Then we have to pass our password, which is a string as well. And this function is going to have a callback. So once our user is logged in with our Firebase, we want to call back and tell whoever is calling our function that the user has logged in, or there was an error and the login wasn't successful, so that our caller knows how to handle the error and present it to the user. So I'm putting a completion here, and say at escaping, and we are going to pass our error in case if there was an error, and this is an optional. And also I'm going to pass is email verified. And this is going to be a bool. So that we are going to tell if our user email is verified or no. And then also we are passing our error. So in order for Firebase authentication to work, we are going to say authentication.authenticate, and then we call a function called sign in, and we're going to sign in with email and with a password. So we are looking with email and password, and this function has a completion handler as well. So our email is going to be the email that we provide, and our password is going to be the password that we provide. And completion, if we just hit enter on it, it will have authentication data result, which is, I'm going to name this auth data result. So this is what we get from Firebase if everything was okay. And then error. As you can see, this is an optional. So say we call this simply an error. Okay, once the callback from our Firebase authentication happens, which the block here, we are going to check first if there was an error. So I will say if error is equals to nil, it means we had no errors. Let me just put an else statement here. When we didn't have any errors, we are going to check our authentication data result to get information if our email address is verified, because our user may register, but he may not verify his email. And then when he comes to login, during our login, we want to make sure if his email was verified, and only then he will go to the application. Otherwise, we are going to tell him that his email wasn't verified, so he can go to his inbox and verify his email, or he can request a new email verification. So here, in case if there was no error, we are going to check if he was email was verified. So we say if auth data result, and we can unwrap this and say user dot is email verified, and this is a boolean. It tells us it was either verified or no, and this is part of Firebase, so we don't have to do anything. It just comes with Firebase. So else, if the email wasn't verified, we are going to print here, say email is not verified. And then we're going to call our completion, and we're going to pass our error, which in this case is going to be nil. And then I'm going to pass a value of is email verified, and in our case it's false because our email was not verified. And this part, in case our email was verified, I'm going to call my completion, and I'm going to pass my error again, which is again nil in our case, and I'm going to pass true because our email address was verified here. I'm going to put a note here to download user from Firestore. So what we need to do when our user email is verified, we want to download the user and save this user locally so that we have access to the user inside our application. And in case if there was an error, our else statement here, I'm going to say completion, and I'm going to pass my error, which in this case there is an error, and is email verified, we are going to pass false because of course our email was not verified. So let's just get rid of these extra lines here, and this will be our login function. The next function we are going to write in this class is to register a user. So let's put a mark here, call this register user, and again this is going to be a class func register user, and it's going to be with email, and we pass our email here, which is a string, and also we pass our password, which is a string as well. And this function, like the previous one, is going to have a callback because we want to be notified whenever our register was successful or not. So I'll say completion and at escaping, and we're going to just return our error, which is a type of error and it's an optional, and this doesn't return anything, so we put a void there. So again, in order to register a user, we are going to use our Firebase authentication. So we access our authentication. Then we just say create user with email and password. And this has a completion handler block as well. So we simply pass our email, pass our password to it, and on completion handler, just hit enter, and we're going to get two variables, auth data result, and let's call this auth data result, and error. And as before, what we want to do is to check if there was an error. If there was an error, we say if error is equals to nil, so there was no error. What we want to do is send email verification. So, so when our user registers, we want to send email verification. And in any case, if there was an error or no, we want to tell our callback completion that we have successfully registered the user. So that's why before my if statement, I will put completion, and I will provide my error here, which may be an error or it may be nil if everything went through correctly. But our email verification, we are going to send only when our error is nil, so when the registration was successful. So I'm going to say auth data result, unwrap this, then we access our user, then I'm going to say send email verification, our email that we are going to send, I'm just going to hit enter here, and I'm going to pass error, and here we are going to write just a print statement for us. So we say print, and I will just put a note that auth email verification error, and we're going to pass an error if there was one. So we say error localized description. And that's it. So we have two functions, the register function, which if everything goes correct, we will send an email verification to our user. and the login function that will check if our login was correct, and then it will check if the email was verified or not. Otherwise, it's going to ask to verify the email again. So in next video, we can use these two functions in order to register our user in our welcome view.